Welcome back to Dead Good Book Reviews. I'm Judith and you're watching another episode of Overbooked here on the channel, the series where I talk about every single book on my shelves because I need to find answers about my past. Today we are talking about another A.M. McLemore book, When the Moon Was Ours. Yes, we are talking about my absolute favourite A.M. McLemore book. I came down on it, I decided this one is my favourite, and I'm excited to talk to you about it today. I have forgotten to script this, so this is going to be something of an experiment. Some quick disclaimers before we start. I bought this book myself, regardless of where books come from. Nobody's paying me to talk about books, and all opinions are my own. I'm going to keep this as spoiler-free as humanly possible, though if you do want to go in knowing absolutely nothing, please click away now. And if you want to look up any content warnings, I will link the story graph for the book below. I am also losing my voice, so we'll see how far we get. When the Moon Was Ours originally came out in 2016. It is A.M. McLemore's second published novel, and it is a magical realism YA romance story. Huzzah! If you don't know who A.M. McLemore is, they are a non-binary author who writes a lot of things at the intersection of various different identities. I would highly recommend their work. I have quite a lot of videos about them up on my channel already, but if you are wanting to continue learning about each one of their works in turn, you should probably subscribe so you find out about my videos every single Monday for the next few weeks. I'm just saying. In this book, we have two friends. We have Miel and we have her friend Sam. Miel has a strange origin story in the town in that she kind of fell out of a water tower one day when it fell down. And that's how she came to be there. And yeah, that's interesting. But bear with me, because also roses grow out of her wrist. Just on occasion, roses grow. It's magical realism. You just have to kind of go with me on the plot here. Then we have Sam, who sort of as what he does in the town, and sort of as a hobby, and sort of just because, paints moons, beautiful moons, paints them, creates them, hangs them up around the town. There's nowhere in town that's not touched by one of Sam's moons. That's the setup for the story. Now everything's going reasonably fine for them. Miel doesn't really know who she is or what she's doing or where her family has got to, but they're getting on. And then one day, the Bonner sisters, who are kind of the popular, most powerful girls of the town, want the roses that Miel grows, again, from herself. And she says no, and they say, well, that's a no, bad things are going to start happening. And so she says, okay, maybe. And it's sort of about the events that ensue from there. I'm terrible at describing books. I don't know why I'm allowed to have this channel. So yes, it's all about protecting your secrets and the secrets of those you love, and identity, and family, and all of the good stuff that A.M. McLemore likes to write about. This is also the first book of theirs that I know of that is very explicitly queer, and I will come on to that as we talk about the books, but I thought it was worth mentioning because that might be something they're looking for. Reasons I love this book. I really love A.M. McLemore's prose in this. I think that they just write really beautiful sentences. And I know that sounds silly, but they just are. They're really, really beautiful. And in some cases, in some instances, with some authors, it comes across really annoying and you're just like, come on, get to the point, stop using the metaphors. But in this case, I think partly because of this setup of everything already feeling kind of fairy tale-like, it works really well in all of their works, but it particularly works well in this story. I found that I really couldn't put this book down because it was so engaging and I was so immersed in the story and in the characters and in the world, and I had the best time. I read it all in one go. I cried so much, but I'm getting off track. The writing is great. I also really, really like these characters. I think sometimes when you have a character who kind of their whole drive is, I don't know who I am and I don't know where I came from and I don't know what I'm doing, can be a little bit annoying, a little bit grating. That sounds so callous of me, but it can happen that way where you're just like, all right, what if you just never find out and we move on with our lives? Maybe I'm just a mean person. Anyway, but in this case, I think because Miel's struggles are really understandable, and the reason she does what she does is understandable, and the corners that she has backed into are so clear that it always feels like she's making, if not the right choice, then a choice that makes sense, which is all I really ask of characters, is to make choices that make sense. And Sam is just lovely. I love Sam. Sam is just such a good character, and just a really lovely representation of a trans man in a way that's very open to exploring identity and what that means, and kind of being a little bit messy about your own discoveries about yourself in a way that I really, really appreciate. And I think that those two people, there's such sort of beams of light in a story set in this really small town where kind of everyone talks about everyone and everything's known, makes for just a really good dynamic across the story, in the sense that anything you do is going to eventually get around the whole town. It adds a layer of tension to everything that I really appreciated. And I think that works across the whole plot, this idea of people finding out things about other people before they know them themselves. It works really well, and also as like a a queer story, I think it's really important that that element come through, which is great. I think the romance in this book is really lovely. I actually like the elements where it ends up being about communication, because I think it explores a lack of communication really well. But I think similar to The Way to Feathers, which we talked about last week, it is just a nice romance alongside all of these other themes and ideas, and in this slightly bizarre setting. I can remember reading this book the first time, or the only time I've read it really, and just crying towards the end, because it was such a real sense of catharsis for me. And I do have a lot of personal connections to some of the elements in this story, but I also think that just the way that the story ebbs and flows and the way that the plot is structured is just so well handled and masterfully crafted that you just find yourself being completely swept along with the story, to the point where, yeah, I was just at the end of it openly sobbing, because it's just so good. And I don't actually find that I do that with a lot of YA anymore. This was an exception for me, and that's partly why it's one of my favourites. If you liked The Way to Feathers, I would definitely recommend continuing on with something like this. I think this really exemplifies that particular style of A.M. McLemore's writing. I think if you've liked some of their later stuff, something more The Mirror Season or Lakelaw, this might feel a little bit, not dated in the sense of people are talking about like social media that doesn't exist anymore, but more in the sense of it's much more fairy tale-y, it's much more fantastical than I think those books are. They read more as contemporary. That doesn't mean I think it's bad, it's just that if you like those, you're not necessarily going to find the same elements in this, other than in the themes and identities that A.M. McLemore always explores. However, if you were going to pick a book that feels the most similar to this of their works, I would probably go with Blanca y Roja, because of the kind of community dynamic that book has, in the same way that this one does. And also in the way that it explores villains or antagonists. I think that's really interesting as well. There's a lot of other romance out there that's kind of like, we're just two individuals in this world and we're best friends and we fall in love with each other. And I don't necessarily think I need to be the one to recommend all of those. I wondered about something like The Quiet at the End of the World for that kind of dynamic, maybe, but I've not read enough contemporary to really be able to recommend those things. I'm aware Quiet at the End of the World is kind of speculative. Contemporary YA, not necessarily my thing, or my thing that I'm best able to recommend. As I say, this is my absolute favourite A.M. McLemore book. Of all of the ones that I have read, this is the one that spoke to me the most, that I most want to pick up again. I can see myself reading this again in an evening, just having the best time. I think, as ever, and with all of these, if magical realism isn't your thing, or if this idea of a story where the ending might be left slightly open for you isn't your thing, maybe this won't be for you. But if you are willing to accept all of those things, and you like this style of storytelling, I think this will absolutely be a favourite for many, and I would absolutely recommend that you read it. Have you read this? Do you have any plans to? Please do let me know down in the comments below. You can also hit me up with recommendations of that kind of we are just two people against the world kind of romance, because I would like to read it. While you're down there commenting, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. It makes me feel loved and appreciated. And again, there's lots more A.M. McLemore to come. Hooray! Nothing makes me feel more loved and appreciated than my patrons over on Patreon, who support the channel and make videos like this possible. If you are one of my medium to top tier patrons, you are also getting this early, so thank you so much. If you'd like to join their number, that's all linked below, as well as a link to my social media and my Discord, where we have chill chats about books. Welcome. Join if you are that way inclined. I should really script more of these. It's fine. Right, my voice is fully about to go, so I shall say goodbye. Thank you so much for watching. That's all from me, and I will see you in the next one. There's gonna be some bloopers now. Novel. Magic. Then we have Miel. Did I say Sam or Miel? It's Miel who does that.